All right. Hello. We're live, everybody. Hi, Gavin.
Hey, Mel.
Melanie Dizon with the Director of Education and Content at the Davis Finney Foundation. And I'm really happy to be here today with Gavin. Gavin, you are where are you? Why do I think Texas? Where are you?
Yeah, Richardson, Texas, right outside Dallas.
Oh, okay. Wait, so I did not know you were in Richardson. I should have put those two together.
Yeah, so I could jog to the Voice Project from here.
Yeah.
I could
And
jog
also,
to
Mike
Michael's
Drake,
gym. Michael's gym,
Tribe,
Tribe, yeah, and the world famous Parkinson Voice Project
for
are
sure.
half a mile from you. You know,
That is okay.
I
That
could
is
jog there, before this thing is half over for sure. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Good. Okay, great. So if you are here and want to say hello, just say hi to us. Just let us know that you can hear us and that, yeah. And I want to make sure that it's streaming okay. All right, Gavin. I feel like I remember first being in contact with you at least 5 years ago or so. So let's kind of start from the beginning. I want to hear how did your Parkinson's diagnosis go? And oh, hi, Polly. Polly says hello, Gavin. So yeah, when did you get your diagnosis, and what happened leading up to it?
Yeah, okay. First of all, I wasn't nervous when I was coming in, but then I got that countdown. People can't see it, but they count you down from 30, and it's like, okay, here we go.
It's really
So I
dramatic.
got a little nervous. So can I do this? I'm gonna play a walk-up song. Plus, we just got the music set up in here and
Yeah, totally.
the toys and the gym we set up. So I got me a little walk-up song. I want to try to play, quell my nerves a little bit.
Okay.
I've really been digging this song lately. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh, the speakers aren't on, but there we go. Filter. All right, I'm good now.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was diagnosed in 2008. I was 38, and it wasn't really much to it. I had a little tremor in my hand, a little tremor in my foot. Went to went to the neurologist. Wasn't thinking Parkinson's, because also I had something that I had kind of burning sensation in my leg that would wake me up at 6 in the morning, and normally I was a great sleeper, so I thought it was restless leg syndrome, which is a very serious condition, but it sounded silly at the time. So I kind of put off going to the doctor on it, and eventually went. And the interesting thing about this doctor, she wasn't a movement disorder specialist, because I didn't know I needed that at the time. She was about my age, and really, really good. She did a good job of diagnosing me.
Was she just a primary care doctor or a neurologist?
Neurologist.
Okay.
She spent a lot of time with me, and she said, looked me over, and she said, there just weren't many signs, but she said, I think you have Parkinson's. And I went and ended up getting a second opinion, and turns out it was Parkinson's. Go figure. But I tried to follow up with her later, and she took a leave of absence. She had a baby, and then I followed up later, and she didn't come back. And I thought that was strange. I thought, well, I guess she decided just to spend time with her kids. But the way they were telling me at the office was really strange. Like, well, no, she's probably not going to be coming back. Well, it turns out she got breast cancer and passed away like within a year. I'd say within a year of diagnosing me with my condition.
Wow.
And she was my age, had two little babies essentially, and it's just terribly sad. And it just made me think, though, like, wow, who'd have thought on that day she was diagnosing me with Parkinson's, her fate would be worse than mine. It really kind of snapped me into thinking, like, hey, it could be any of us any day, and Parkinson's I can live with. And so, made it seem like not so bad. And then the other thing is, like, my wife was pregnant with our second child at that time. My son was 3. My wife was pregnant with Maris. And I didn't, even though my father had Parkinson's, it was very late in life. And so I never really learned that much about it. He only lived with it for probably a couple of years, and he had a litany of ailments that he lived with anyway. So I didn't know when they told me I had Parkinson's. I'm like, I didn't know how fast it progressed. So I thought, well, my first thought was, am I going to be able to hold my baby when she's born? It's like that, like that's the worst. Like it was just too much shaking to hold a baby. And when I found out, no, it takes a while. You'll be able to hold your baby. I thought, okay, well, good. Again, I can live with this. So the diagnosis wasn't too hard on me. And the first several years, just take the medicine and everything's kind of masked. And I kept working and just went on with things for several years. And I guess one more interesting piece to that story is for about 5 years, I was worked, did family things, and Parkinson's just really wasn't a player as long as I took the medication. And then at some point later on, it started, more and more it became part of my life, and couldn't avoid it anymore, and started, going to meetings and learning about it and getting on as much as I could with it. And I remember, for 5 years, Amy and I didn't really talk about it. Amy's my wife, obviously. And because I didn't want to worry them. We had a good life going, 2 little kids, good jobs, house in the suburbs, and things were just going well. And I didn't want to upset that. I didn't want to create as few waves as possible. And I remember at some point along there, Amy came to me and said she was so worried, like she broke down and cried, and she was just so worried about everything. And she said, for 5 years we didn't ever talk about this. I didn't know. And so I thought I was protecting her by keeping things quiet and trying to manage things on my own as best as possible, so she could, spend this good quality time with the family and have the life she's always wanted. Because her childhood was not this way. It wasn't so copacetic. So I thought I was doing her a favor, and it turns out I'd made a huge mistake by trying to just take on everything myself and keep it from her. And she worried and she stressed, and I meant well, but like it's a mistake. I try to tell people now, so it's probably not the way to go.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we're going to get to even more why that's interesting in a few minutes. But quite curious about, you said that, your dad was diagnosed later in life. Was there any sense of, hindsight where you guys, were able to look back and say, while he wasn't diagnosed till later, a lot of symptoms that he had, and maybe he had it a long time ago, or did he truly not really have any?
No, he probably had some classic Parkinson symptoms, prone to addiction. I can remember an essential tremor, like I guess just a shaky hand for as long as for all my life.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was born to him really pretty late in his life, and he was like probably late 40s. And, some other things that could have indicated probably Parkinson's was on the way, but his was induced by a trauma, like a car accident. And after that car accident, Parkinson's started showing up. He was about 80 at that time, and he lived another about 3 or 4 more years.
Okay.
But my dad survived cancer, alcoholism. He was sober most of his adult life, but when I was born and on, he was sober. Before that, a lot of drinking. He survived heart ailment, heart surgery, triple bypass surgery. And then Parkinson's at the end. So there's always something with him.
Yeah. So what was the first medication that you went on?
Well, I think they tested, I don't remember this entirely, but I think they tested with Cinnamon to see if that would treat it. And it did. It worked perfectly. So I think I stayed on just with Cinnamon for a while, ended up getting on Requip a little bit later, and then stayed on those for just a long time.
Okay.
It's interesting though, because 15 years ago, essentially, at least the doctor I went to, a very good doctor, movement disorder specialist, he wasn't shy about using a lot of things and copious amounts of it to keep me going, to keep me working. I mean, he felt like, and we agreed, like, hey, I wanted to keep working, I wanted to be active and not be bothered by the tremor. In hindsight, I probably would have taken a little less of this and a little less of that. For example, he introduced essentially, well, it was Adderall after about 5 years. because I had this just brutal afternoon fatigue I had to deal with, and that did away with it. I mean, Adderall did away with a lot of little aches and pains, and boy, it made me feel, I didn't realize it made me feel good.
Yeah.
I took it for a couple of years, and it finally conflicted with something else I wanted to mix in, so I quit taking it. But there's a lot of ways to treat it, but you have to be careful with how much how much of anything you use to treat it.
Right. So, what would you say were the initial signs of Parkinson's in really starting to impact your quality of life and daily activities where, you really started to have to make some changes?
This right here, sitting behind a desk, I had a desk job, was just a nightmare on my back. So I'd come
Mm.
all day, I'd be experiencing stiffness in this chair, and I'd come home at night and just a terrible back pain, just so stiff and achy. And I was no fun to be around. I'd want to go to bed, and I was still trying to work. It took me longer to get the same things done at work.
What
My
was your
job,
job? Was it a real cognitively demanding job?
and most people wouldn't say so, but I put a lot into it. I was a commercial real estate valuation, commercial appraiser, I guess would be the
Hmm.
common term without putting a fancy title on it. So, but it's mostly a desk job. I got out a little bit. I enjoyed it, and it's very analytical, and but it required a lot of time, kind of getting myself poured into the information, and dedicating blocks of time to understand it and analyze it, and then write about it. We'd write a report, thick report, and issue it, and then each one took probably a week or 2 weeks to do, depending on it. It was fun. I got to go to a lot of places and do a lot of praise a lot of interesting buildings. So I enjoyed it, but there came a time I had to trade it in for something where it didn't affect my physical pain, and how the quality time I spent with my family. And I
Yeah.
guess the other thing too is there's a lot of deadlines. And though I felt like I was still doing good work, I was slower. It took
Hmm.
me longer to get the same thing done. And so I was constantly, I'd get something turned in, and it was immediately on to the next one because I was going to be behind on that one. It was a constant game of, I could never feel like I was caught up. And after a while, it just became that was enough. The interesting thing was, I did that for about another 6 or 7 years after I was diagnosed. And Amy she reminded me the other day, she said, the happiest time of your life that I've ever seen you was right after you turned in your resignation and had the time off. But you didn't know what you were going to do next, but you knew you were going to be away from that job. I said, what are you talking
Interesting.
about?
Yeah.
I'm happy all the time. What do you mean? She was out, well, not like this. That was different. Like you were just so stress free.
Yeah. So what happened? I think so many people can relate to this, right? You're 38
Yeah.
years old, you're in the middle of a career, you're climbing and, success and everything's going great. And then 7 years, 8 years later, you're, retiring or quitting. What was that like? And how long, what did you do? Did you get another job? And what was
Yeah.
that time period like?
Well, those are good questions. I took the other opposite viewpoint. I think most people would say, do something different, and stay with your employer as long as you can, and have him have that person work with you as much as possible. And I thought for some reason, like, well, I can still do this. I'm still good at it. I can, in fact, I felt like I could do it better than what my old company was doing it. So I thought, well, I just need to create my own schedule, have my own company, and I could do this on my own schedule, do it standing up, doing different moving, and have my own office, own place, and hire a few of my own people, and just do it in a different way that would suit my needs. And that was what I did. And but the business failed terribly. Um, Turns out, better ideas don't necessarily lead to more money, more clients and more money, because it's very relationship based. And I didn't take those relationships with me. I couldn't create the relationships to replace these long-term relationships that the established people have. So a better idea, maybe a better report to save a few $100s. Nobody cared. They wanted to keep doing business with the people they always did business with, and so that I had to close that down, and that was dump some money into that, and so. But it's all a learning experience, and I took that experience and tried to. Then I said, okay, what can I do? What do I know besides real estate valuation? That time I started learning more about Parkinson's, and so okay, I know Parkinson's, and I know fitness. I've exercised my whole life, and I love exercise. It's it was doing so much good for me with Parkinson's. So I wanted to share that. And so I know Parkinson's, I know exercise, what can I do with this? And so I tried to get positions at several Parkinson's organizations, even part-time or whatever I could do to get my foot in the door, Davis Finney being one. In fact, all truth be told, you and I applied for the same position that you got and I didn't get, which was fine. I completely understood that, but I felt like I didn't get as much consideration as I felt like I should have. But that's not just Davis Finney. I love Davis Finney. It was all the Parkinson's organizations. They're kind of used to doing things a certain way. And hiring someone with Parkinson's, believe it or not, was not something most of them were doing at the time. And so I didn't go that route. And I saw like most of those doors were not, frankly, maybe I'm not qualified. I didn't have a history of doing those things. So the resume didn't look good, but you'd have to look deeper, I guess, to see any value I thought I might have had. But that wasn't going to work. So ultimately I said, okay, now I'm about 9 or 10 years in at this point. And I thought, well, start my own business again. Here we go. I'll just become a personal trainer for people with Parkinson's primarily. I just can't train people as well as an ordinary trainer could for anyone without Parkinson's. Maybe someone with Parkinson's or some other similar disability, let's go. I felt like that was my jam right there. So I've been doing that ever since. But wrapping that up, kind of slowing down a little bit there, especially as my wife was diagnosed with brain cancer the last year. And now that's become my full-time position, is kind of being her personal trainer, her health coach, her caretaker, I guess you'd say. And it's funny because at that time when she was diagnosed, I had 14 years of Parkinson's. And who'd have thought that time, I felt like I'm just riding it out, like doing the best I can. And that's going to be that's going to be my big battle for the rest of my life, was how much could I cope with and what could I still do with Parkinson's as I progress. And it turns out, like, I looked at it and said, wow, 14 years of Parkinson's was training for me in what would be the biggest job of my life, which would be now caring for Amy and helping Amy fight this aggressive battle with cancer that she has.
Yeah. So that is,
I was kind of fired up again.
Yeah, that's not something, we could talk about a lot, but it's true. People that are living with Parkinson's, that is just one thing. Not only is it one piece of who they are, but it's also one thing of this life that can throw so many different complications and interesting things at us. So you turned to, you hadn't really, well, actually, let me ask this. Was there a point in your own Parkinson's where you needed more care from Amy? Or have you still, from the very beginning, whether it was lifestyle changes, medication, exercise, et cetera, have you always been able to maintain your independence and do everything?
Oh, well, let me point that. She bought me this cane, which I love this cane.
Is that a baseball bat? Cool.
Yeah, baseball bat cane. I love it. And so, beyond the cane, and she bought me a walker recently. I'm extremely stubborn, and I still don't like to accept help from her. So, and I don't want to bother her because she's always had the kids. She's the one primary parent, and I'm always like, I can do this. So she wasn't doing a lot of caregiving. She did not even go to doctor's appointments with me. Doesn't really even understand my medication scheduling and things like that. She's getting to know it better, but I just hadn't wanted her to be a part of that as little as possible.
Yeah. It sounds like you had said you kind of kept the whole first 5 years. You didn't talk about it. Yeah. I'm interested. How the dynamic really changed. Did you understand where she was coming from once she was diagnosed? And you're on the
that's good insight, because it did change really quickly. So, she's told me several times, like, I understand more about what you're going through. I get it. And I'm like, well, I can't completely understand what you're going through, but I get it a lot. And so now it's like, it's funny to see us around the house because it's just comical. And, I'm like, my problem is mobility at times, and her biggest problem, I guess, is cognitive stuff right now. So I'm trying to keep track of all her meds and appointments and things like that. The kids now I'm doing a lot more stuff with the kids.
You have 3, is that correct?
2 kids, 17
kids,
and 13. So they're pretty self-sufficient, but what I can do is, getting them with some things they need an adult for. So Amy's primary problem right now is cognition, memory, problem solving, and mine is mobility. So I'll be like, if you get that for me over there, I'll sort out your pills and get them for you. And
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's almost like the dual Parkinson's piece, right? The
Wait.
non-motor is, and you're the motor.
Between our two defective brains, we hope to get one good one out of it. But
so was her cancer operable, or
it was.
Okay.
So she was diagnosed. She went in. They kept telling her problems were part of see, this is my brain, but midlife women get
menopause.
So several doctors told her, we think this is just menopause related. And then one day,
sounds like women that try to get diagnosed, not try to get diagnosed, but that go through the Parkinson's diagnosis, right?
Absolutely. So, a lot of the problems that people face with women, people of color, low income, they're across the whole healthcare field, the whole healthcare spectrum. But one day she lost eyesight, and we both said, like, this is not menopause. This is something big time. And so I was going to get her in to see my neurologist, and by that time I suspected there was a tumor or something like that. And the next day, I was doing something for Parkinson's where I was shooting 3-pointers the whole day, as part of the support for the London Marathon. Someone who was running the London Marathon said, as long as it takes you, Joe Gregory is kicking a soccer ball the whole way through the London Marathon. I said, as long as it takes you to do that, I'll be out there shooting basketballs.
Wow. I
love doing it anyway. With no harm to me. But that day, I was just wrapping it up, and she called me and she said, "Will you take me to the ER? Something's not right." Took her to ER, and they did MRI. They wouldn't let me back there because of COVID stuff, so she was back there by herself. Did the MRI. At that time, I went to go clean up my basketball stuff because I'd left things in just a wreck. And I thought, well, they wouldn't let me back into the ER anyway, so I'll spend my time cleaning up. She called me and says, "You need to come back up here. They're admitting me to the hospital. We need to talk." I said, yeah, I can as soon as I can get there. Turns out after the whole day of basketball and ate too big of a lunch, too much protein, I was stuck. I couldn't. So it took me 2 hours to get back to her and be with her, and I felt terrible about that. I couldn't. And so, I mean, I could have crawled, I suppose, but it's one of those things where I think, okay, I'm going to be better any minute. And when 1 minute led to an hour and led to 2 hours. And so I felt terrible. She's by herself at this time, and I should have been there to get her through that. So it turned out, they admitted her and they did a surgery 3 days later. It was operable, and they got a whole lot of it out. And I hope there's not too much boring stuff for people tune in to want to hear about Parkinson's.
This is life, though. This is life.
Yeah, it was interesting. The intriguing thing about that time was, Amy has had a lot of stress. Anyone that lives with someone with Parkinson's, especially with a family and still at the house, is stressful. And she's done a fantastic job. And we have, started stress she was stressing about her own health. And we're stressing about kids. We stress about finances and housing and everything people stress about. And she was working full time, a stressful job. And when she was admitted to the hospital, and she knew she had a tumor, and then they were going to operate on it in several days. But all that stuff went out the window. It was gone. And now she had this huge concern of her mortality, but she could give that away because there's nothing she could do about that. That's God's problem. All the other little problems that she thought were big problems, now she's in the hospital and not thinking about them, not worrying about them. They weren't a big deal anymore. They were gone. So those few days between diagnosis and surgery were unbelievable. I've never seen her with less stress.
Oh, wow.
Crazy. And she's managed to keep that at sometimes, but she comes back home and kind of the stresses fall back in place. The interesting thing is she was about to take a sabbatical for her job. She'd been with her company 7 years. Then you get a 7-week sabbatical. At that point, her sabbatical started the day after she was admitted to the hospital.
Oh.
So the good is like she got to be paid for the sabbatical time. She couldn't work during the cancer. The bad was like that was her sabbatical. It was surgery and chemo and radiation and all these other things. And it's just been a wild ride. It's been 3 months, 3.5, well, a little over 3 months now have gone by.
How was the care partnering for you right when she got home from the hospital?
I mean, it was natural in a lot of ways because it was saying a lot of the same things I did for myself, now doing for her. Her health is, she didn't require a lot. She recovered from surgery really well before she started chemo and radiation. Even during chemo and radiation, it wasn't that bad, like a lot of people had it. So, we've always had a good reason for hope, a lot of support. She's in good health. It's a very aggressive cancer and keeps coming back, but she's a fighter. I mean, she's sweet as can be, but she's also a big fighter. So it hadn't been too bad. She hadn't required a whole lot. Recently a little more so as we get ready for the next round of chemo. There's, like I said, some of the cognitive stuff, and now it's like kind of it's really we got to get really serious about. Things are harder, and it's kind of like the next subsequent phases of Parkinson's when you got to step it up and step it up and step it up. And
right.
But we've had a ton of support. We still have a lot of hope, and we live. It's cliche. We live day by day by day, and there's never any. Every now and then there's some tears, but the laughs are 100 times more frequent than tears. It's just.
What about this? Is so your kids? Your wife was pregnant when you were, your wife was pregnant with your second, but you had a 3-year-old when you were diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, your little one, you've had Parkinson's their entire life, and basically the 3-year-old too. What do you think it's been like for them? Obviously you can't speak for them, but what do you think they look at Parkinson's and also everyone else, right? This has to impact them in such a big way. And then their mom gets brain cancer. What is happening with them?
I was going to ask you the same question. What's happening? No, so a lot of that is starting to come out now, and a lot of stuff that never got talked about, and kids don't want to talk about this stuff. So we could ask them questions, we could have pressed them, and they're still not going to really talk about it. They don't want to, and it's probably embarrassing for them to have a father with Parkinson's, and so they kind of shut that out, and some of that's coming back now, and especially mom's cancer is it's on the forefront all day, every day, and it's hard. Yes, some more so than some kids more so than others. Every child is different, and they see things differently. But it's I'm gonna be honest, it's just brutal. It can be brutal. It's like there's a time recently, so much was going on here. And it's like, I can't remember the guy. It was a writer named Michael something or other. This was CNN, and he got Parkinson's. I can't remember his last name. Really stuck with me when he said, you get Parkinson's and you think, okay, there's my thing. I'm good. I'm good now for life. I got my challenge. But the universe says, well, we're going to keep you on that wheel and keep spinning the wheel, and you continue to get other good and bad things throughout life. And so you continue to get other problems on top of it. And that's what I felt like was going on here. And there came a stretch where it's like, my mom has cancer and she just went into hospice. Amy's mother is dealing with her father's Alzheimer's and just like full-time caregiver now. There's all sorts of other things going on. There's, we all got sick at the same time, and it all came to a head. And there was a time, I was afraid to go to sleep, and that's never happened to me in my life. I was afraid to go to sleep because I didn't know what was going to happen that night, during the night. It was that sort of chaotic, and it was just a lot of worry. And I think we're out of that now, even though a lot of stuff is still happening. We're out of that really dangerous zone that I felt like we were in of what's going to happen. How are we going to get out of this? And the most important, Amy and I agreed from day one with cancer or marriage or whatever, is like, we're going to do, it's all about the kids. So we can handle whatever comes along. But it has to be about the kids' best health and interest and how are they going to best cope. I remember, I used to, when you'd hold your baby. Do you have any children now?
Yeah.
You hold your baby, and for the first time you play with your little kids, and you never felt love like that in your life. And so a whole different kind of love, and they seem so delicate, and you just want nothing to ever happen to them. So I remember praying, not long before I was diagnosed, I was praying like, whatever big things may happen to them, give them to me. I want to take them so that they don't have any, let them have their normal problems, but there's big traumatic problems. You don't know what you do if your child is in that position. So I said, God, I'll take them. And sure enough, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's not long after that. And I thought, that's a prayer answered.
Wow.
Only looking back now, I'm like, why didn't I include Amy in my prayers?
Right.
Why didn't I cut her into the deal too?
Oh, right. Well, Gavin, I'll tell you, one of the things that always sticks out to me about you is how positive you are in the face of so many different things that come your way. And you made a comment about your wife going to the hospital and you being stuck, and being stuck, freezing of gait. I hear that term and I think of you. So can we talk a little bit about all of the amazing things that you do in your life? Like I imagine right now sitting down you're not thrilled and you would rather be moving and rather be doing something. And I don't want to stop you from moving, right? But can you talk a little bit about it? Because you really have some great insight and advice for people.
Yeah, I'll try to make it concise. I mean, I could go on so long with this, like I'm so interested in it. And so I became personal trainer, and the exercise to me is almost like a religion. It's an experience, just every form of exercise, everything I do, I really enjoy it and get them so much from it.
Before you start that, do you work currently at a gym or do you do it all out of your house?
I do it at the client's house.
Okay.
Or
so people find out about that somewhere, can they hire you if they live near Richardson, Texas and they have Parkinson's?
Yeah, they can hire me. I'll probably do it for free, but yeah, okay. A lot of the stuff is just done for free, but they're welcome. Yeah, absolutely. Please do. I'll do what I can. At this point, I'm kind of took myself off the out of the job market right now because everything with Amy, but I still work things in, and because I love it. And so the biggest need is to go to a person's home. I do a lot of work with people who don't get out too much or in kind of assisted living facilities, things like that. And I like to do things outside. That's just my preference, and like to do things in sporting way, like tennis, basketball, baseball, whatever things I like to do.
Well, Nenad, we have ping pong. We have ping pong on here right now. Nenad's on here. So tennis and hand sports. Talk about that.
Anything that I think would be valuable for the person, I'll do. And I think sports things with the ball are so valuable to people with Parkinson's because you can get more out of them. Because if you tell them, okay, now do 10 reps with this weight, okay, and then do it, and then they're done. That's at a certain intensity level. And you say, okay, we're going to catch this ball 10 times, and reach out, catch it. You can give more, like to a reactive thing. You get a ball involved as opposed to just trying to do things with self-motivation. So you get more out of a person by throwing a ball out to them and watching them respond to that ball and having them move left and right and then make quick determinations of what they need to do and responding and adapting. And there's so much in exercise that translates to back into when you get off the field or out of the gym and back into life. I could name on and on and on of things that training a certain way can do when you get out of the exercise realm and back into the house. And I'll say this too, like I like to think of exercise not as a static thing on its own element, but it's sort of combined into everything I do anyway. And if a person can do that, I think they really do themselves a service. Mowing and like all this staying busy, just movement, movement. And so you're flowing from one thing. So it's not like, okay, I've done all this now. It's time to exercise, get my clothes on, and make a big deal of it and go go to your place, which is good if you can do it, but it becomes hard, I think, mentally for people to change, or stop and go, stop and go. I saw something you recently just posted about rhythm, drumming and rhythm. And I've talked about rhythm for so long, a rhythm to life, like keeping this flow, this rhythm, and not stop start, because that's what Parkinson's, like I'm probably talking right now, but Parkinson's is very stop start, and they say it's a disease of size, like you get small things get smaller, and that's true. But I feel like it's just as much a thing of rhythm, breaking rhythm in life.
Mm-hmm.
breaks up everything. So the more we can just keep things in a rhythm and a flow, exercise flows into the rest of your day, it flows into your night, your time with your partner, and just make it almost like a lifestyle as much as regimented program to do it on this day and this day and this day.
Right. It's like
It's
object in motion, an object in motion stays in motion, right? So
I'm always
question
afraid I'm
about,
going to rust. I'm afraid I'm going to rust. If I sit still long, I'm going to rust and I won't be able to move again.
yeah. So let's say you start working with somebody who maybe historically have done things such as cycling, running, really monostructural types of movements, and then you introduce balls, whether it's playing basketball or tennis or just throwing the ball. Is this something that they report seeing benefits, long after those sessions are over? Those things are transferring to them in their life, or what?
That's really hard to measure that stuff. They have fun. I know that they have fun.
Okay.
I have fun, and I think it corresponds to their non-exercise life in a variety of ways, mentally, emotionally, and yeah, and I think they feel better about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the idea, though, if we're doing a variety of things, there's a place for that, and that's good too. But if you can specialize in one thing, you say, okay, I really like doing this. I really like baseball or basketball or tennis. Now I want to see how good I can become at it. And you kind of get that itch, that fever, like, okay, I'm getting better. And then you start to really, how much better can I get? And you get more and more into that one thing. And exercise doesn't become as hard anymore. And you start competing with yourself or bring others into it. And like, gives you self-confidence to realize you can be good at something you never thought you'd be good at again. Probably it's something they used to play earlier in life and felt like they had to give it up. And I'm saying, let's try it again. Let's modify it and start doing it again. One of my best clients I played tennis with in a wheelchair. She has a tennis racket, and I can just toss balls to her, and she hits them in a variety of ways. And we work on her standing up out of the chair, but we're working. We'll see if we can get there. But she's got a variety of leg elements, lower body things. But just hitting balls out of her chair with a tennis racket and catching balls and throwing balls. You wouldn't believe it. Someone was there yesterday videotaping us because we both had DBS, me and my client, and the DBS company wanted to videotape it and see what was going on, how we train. And she was out there, and maybe some point you'll see these videos. It's just, you wouldn't believe it. She's like a spider the way she catches things, spider catching flies and hitting the ball. And she loves it. And she also plays ping pong, things she can do from her chair.
Yeah.
That I can provide.
When did you get DBS?
2018. No, 2017. So
okay. Fine. What was your experience like?
Good. I probably didn't need it as bad as a lot of people. You'd see a lot of people. I felt like my window was not too much longer, and I wanted to go back on some of the meds, and that allowed me to do that. So I ended up kicking back, going backwards on my meds by about 25 or 30%, getting a little bit better. The freezing of gait never really got better, but the tremor's better. There's hardly any tremor now, although it's starting to inch its way back in. But my experience was really good. The process, the surgery, the surgeon was wonderful. The companies were wonderful.
Did you have a chance to choose which device you wanted, or was this a recommendation from your doctor?
Okay. There's an interesting question. So at the time, and I'll mention company names. I'm not, I think that's something you understand.
Yeah.
At the time, Medtronic was the only one doing. Right before I decided to have DBS, Medtronic was the only company that did implants. And then when another company called Abbott came along, I believe they're still called Abbott, and And so things seem to be better. Like, okay, now they basically, essentially what I understood was took Medtronic's device and made it a little better. The patent had expired, and you think it's a little better device, but it's untested. So nobody had this device yet. And so I kind of had two choices, and I thought, well, hell, I don't know which one. Like Medtronic had let people have a good experience, but this one might be better, but there's a little bit of uncertainty to it. So I thought, I don't know, 6 of one, half dozen the other. Why don't I figure out a creative way to pick which device I wanted to have implanted? And so I thought I'll do some research on the companies. And, this type of stuff matters so much to people with Parkinson's. It matters to everyone in healthcare. It's like, what are these large companies making so much money in the healthcare industry giving back to their community? What's their ethics like? How much can we trust them? We want them to do good work, but they also need to be caring about the work they do and the patients that they serve and the communities that they serve or don't serve. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to pick which of these two devices, because I didn't know which one would work better for me. They probably would work both work fine. I'm going to pick the company I feel like is a better corporate citizen, more charitable, better not just to the Parkinson's community, but worldwide. Like who's doing more, who seems to care more about their place in the world and about all the profits that they make. What are they doing with them? And I compared the two companies at that time. That's before Boston Scientific came along, and there was one clear favorite, and it was Abbott. And I told the medical sales reps at the time, I said, that's how I chose. This is why I want Abbott, and I feel real strongly about it. And my wife said, holy shit, why didn't you include me in this? What are you doing? And I said, oh, I thought you'd be okay with it. She's like, well, it's pretty crazy at first. So don't you? She says, you're not the only one with Parkinson's in this family. We have to live with you too. I wish you to talk to me about it. And so I took quite a tongue lashing for her as well. I should have. But we went forward in that direction. And so I worked with Abbott, and hopefully this makes a company like Medtronic better. And not that they're any worse than anybody else, but I hope we all get better. But I ended up working with Abbott, and they were so good. They were so responsive to the way I made this decision. I ended up going to San Diego and speaking to 600 of their people, gave a speech and talked about it, and like they listened and they cared. It's moving to people to hear stuff like this, because they want to know that they're helping people and that they're making a difference. And I think I fired up some people in that company. Now, maybe is it still like that? That was 5 years ago. I don't know. A lot of corporations go quarter to quarter, and that's kind of how they make their determinations. But at the time, I felt like we made a difference. We made people more aware. So it was cool to get an opportunity to do that. And my DBS has worked out fine.
I have to say, Gavin, you kind of like my jaw dropped. I've talked to so many people who have gotten deep brain stimulation, DBS, from all different companies. And you're the first person who has ever said that that's how they made the choice. Well, I find it fascinating and great and really interesting. So
thank you. It was the time for me, like it just kind of worked out that way because you didn't know either one could have worked out well for me. And then you look at personnel like Heather Kennedy, the beloved Heather Kennedy, like one of my most favorite people in the world, what she's going through. And this is why I did stuff like that. It's like, and I'm not blaming anyone. We don't know who to blame if there's any blame to go around, but that's what you try to prevent. It's like, you want companies to care about what happens to their patients after they put the implant in.
Yeah, what happens after?
Okay, who's next?
Yeah.
We want to be involved, and we want them to be involved in us, and we want to have a relationship. And that's why I try to do things like that. And the other thing is, I felt powerless at the time. I couldn't find the job I wanted. It was right in between before I became a personal trainer. I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, I felt unempowered. Just kind of that was probably my low point in my Parkinson's journey in life. And I thought, well, this is one way I can leverage something. I have nothing but like just this little choice between this company or this company. They both wanted it inside my head. They both wanted to sell me that. That was one little thing of leverage I could take and say, okay, I've got two people that want something from me. What can I get back from them? So it sort of empowered me in a way, and like it did kind of pull some momentum back in my life. And because for me, having Parkinson's is there, I feel like there's a reason I got it. I always, you want to make something happen, something good can come out of it. I mean, no one can live with. To me, it'd be real hard to live with just, well, you have Parkinson's, I write it out, but I want to make something good come from it, above and beyond my family first. But if you can make something happen in the community that matters to people that come after me, and just makes life better for whoever comes after me. People made my life better for me that came before me, for sure. Mentors have been so beneficial to me, and like I could go on for forever about the mentors I've had. Now I feel like it's all my responsibility, my privilege to try to give back as much as possible in the same way, because it's hard. It's a hard disease, as you know. It can be very hard, especially for someone with kids, young onset. It's really just kind of an impossible thing. At least it has been people in our era to grow up with it. But we want to make it a little easier for people to come along behind us to make it happen, because you start. I don't know how my kids are going to be fucked up in the future.
Yeah.
Somewhere, I don't know. But my hope is like to somehow it's going to be better for them. Like me having gone through this, and then the problems with having a father having gone through this. I mean, they see me crawl. They see things they shouldn't see. They see me crawl. They see me in suffering. They see me unable to do things. They see me out of work. They see it's not what their kids want to see their father. And so I just hope that at some point they see things that, like, I remember my dad made it through that situation. I can too. Right. And my dad had no quit in him. And that they can come back to that at some point in their life. That's the hope, and that's the faith. That's where faith comes in. Is like, that's one thing I try to control as much as possible, but I can't control. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But I have faith that like all this has some meaning at some point to somebody, and hopefully it's my family. So
yeah. Well, I do the phrase "he has no quit in him." Right. That is what a lesson. What a lesson to teach. The kids, your kids, people who are watching you, the clients that you get to work with, because you can't quit with Parkinson's. If you do, you don't live well. You barely live at all, right? You've got work to do. You are doing work every single day.
There's a fine line between like asking for help and like opening that door up to saying, okay, I'll accept help, and then I feel like then I'm going to want more and more help. But like, I want to be self-sufficient as long as possible. But I don't. But I've made a mistake there too. I've turned people away who wanted to help, and that's not good either. You let people help you because we want to help other people. Other people want to help us. It's good for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that a lot of people miss on getting help from other people. Is we think it's going to be a burden, or we're going to be too much energy for them to help us out, when really we're robbing them of them being able to help us, which feels really good to help someone.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, it takes me, so many things of like, why didn't I figure that out? Why didn't I figure that out? Like, here I am now 53, and I'm still learning every single day. And it took my wife's cancer to realize, like, people want to help you. Do things, let them help you, and don't be so stubborn, and accept help because you can have too much pride, and now your family's suffering. The first seizure Amy had was terrifying, and so we brought her to the hospital, and my kids were there with her in the room. And at some point, my medication ran out sooner than what I expected, because of the stressful situation. And now all of a sudden, I'm a statue. So we're in ER, which is good, but like, Amy's still not looking good. Kids are worried as can be. We've not experienced any seizures before, and I'm locked up. And meanwhile, she's got monitors going off, and so there's still things that need to be done, like talking to nurses and trying to get people in there, trying to help her all I can. And I'm pretty well stuck. I couldn't pull any magic out of that. And I was stuck for a good. They took her up to her room. I was still stuck, and I should, in retrospect, that was the time for me. Like, okay, I should have accepted a wheelchair or something to help me move. But yeah, I just keep thinking, I'm kind of stuck in the past. I'm like, I'll be able to get out of this. I'm going to move soon. And that's how Parkinson's is. It creeps up on you, but the day will come, you can't move and you don't move and there's nothing you can do about it and you're stuck, and you've got to accept help, accept the devices that are provided to us and the things that people have worked their whole life to get for us, the medications, the treatments, the devices, things that are going to help us with our life, use them, because my family's going to suffer if I don't. And that's just a pride thing at some point. And that's one thing, one of the many things Parkinson's do for you. It helps you get rid of pride, it helps you get rid of ego and image, and eventually, it takes a little while, but it'll beat it out of you. And that's one of the best things it's ever done for me, is like beating ego and pride out. Not all of it, it'll never completely go away, but now I can be who I am and be me and not be afraid of what I look like. You see the videos of me struggling to move and walk, and like that's I can either be not able to walk, or I can play basketball better than I've ever played before, and
Right.
on some degree too. So that's cool. Like I like that now. It's like the two me's of like this dichotomy and this delta between the guy who looks like he's about to die and he's pitiful and poor Gavin, and like, how's he ever gonna get by? And he looks terrible. And that's fine what people want to think of me, because there's another me, and I love that. And I feel when I'm well medicated, well treated, I can still do all the things I enjoy doing, and it's a blessing. And I mean, it's been such a crazy experience. Like I could talk more and more and more, and I know I've had it better than most people. I realize that I'm lucky. I'm fortunate to have the people I've had in my life, the care, the resources, the knowledge, the inspiration, on and on. And so, my primary interest in getting more involved in Parkinson's was helping people in countries and places who don't have any access to medication or can't afford it and struggle. Maybe they have basic medication and nothing else. And so I've kind of got distracted from that at times, but that's still what I care about more than anything, because I can't imagine not having access to medication, what that life is like. And if we have time, I can explain going to Uganda and going to Mexico. And
yeah, talk about it. Let's hear about it.
So there's a lady by the name of Cheryl Klingenhofer. You may be familiar with her. One of the best people. They're one of the best people you'll find in the Parkinson's community or anywhere. Her father had Parkinson's, and she did a lot of the things. Like, she and I see eye to eye on training and exercise and what can be done, because she helped her father do these things until he passed away. And now she still stayed in Parkinson's training, working with people with Parkinson's, but she also became involved with a operation in Uganda, with its primary goal being eliminate the myth, to get rid of the myth of that Parkinson's is witchcraft, which is common in Uganda. It's common in other countries in Africa. It's common in other countries around the world. Less so, but it's a pretty big deal in Uganda and in Africa. It's where I think she's changing things. It's getting better. But can you imagine, like, not only do you not know what you have, but you think some kind of curse or evil spirit or something evil's behind it. And so they're automatically kind of, kicked out of their community or isolated. And people like that don't live very long, and they live miserably. And she got connected with Kabugo Hannington, and they created this foundation called Parkinson's Sibuko, which means Parkinson's is not witchcraft. And I caught wind of it online, and I thought, well, this is so interesting, so cool, so tragic what's happening there. And like, it's seemingly so easy, as messy as a disease as Parkinson's is, the medication helps people tremendously. And it seems so easy to get, it seemed like it'd be easy to get the medication to people, is at least a starting point to treating the disease. But even before that, like, to think this is witchcraft, like that's a no-brainer. Like, that doesn't cost anyone any money. Surely we can spread the word and get that out of the picture. And that's what Cheryl was working on with this guy, Kabugo Hannington, who's got a phenomenal backstory with his mother going through Parkinson's and AIDS at the same time, and just a brutal time for Kabugo. And so he dedicated his life. He said, I want to spend the rest of my life educating people on what this disease is. They got together, and I saw it online, and I was blown away by both of them. And I thought they were having a fun run come up, and and within a few months' time, and started to generate awareness in that area, in that part of Uganda. And I thought, well, man, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I think I could go. And so I told them I would go, and they were getting real excited about it. And then I told my wife what I was going to do, and then she says, again, it's the same thing of like, dude,
You did what?
what is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why won't you clear this stuff with me and the family first? I'm like, I don't know. It just sounded too good. I thought you'd be okay with it. That's just how I think of things sometimes. I jump in, probably too impulsively, but I jump into things and I'm probably naive, but I feel like, man, I'm just so curious about things there. And I feel like they need some sort of outside presence to help them get this thing going. Eventually my wife comes around, as she usually does, and I learn my lesson. But she, from her standpoint, is like she already has this worry, and now she got to worry about. She feels everybody's safety, and what am I doing? And am I gonna be okay by myself here for a week without you? And I just have this faith about things, and I feel like I'm trying to do the right thing. That things will work out in the end. Anyway, so I went and spent the week there with Kabuko Hannington. He drives me around the country. We're visiting people with Parkinson's. We're finding people with Parkinson's. We're the witch doctor. The village witch doctor has Parkinson's, and which is crazy because he's the one who cures people with Parkinson's through some of the witch doctor methods. And then he gets Parkinson's, which is supposed to prove that, look, this thing is a science. It's not a curse. Otherwise, the witch doctor would have cured himself. So I'm spending time with the witch doctor, and it's such a surreal experience. I could go on forever telling those stories. We find people with Parkinson's walking down the side of the road. I mean, Kabuko just has this eye. He's Parkinson's full time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that if you like, where were all of these people getting diagnosed with Parkinson's, and from whom? Right?
Kabuko. That's about the extent of it. And so, he's done so much. Him and Cheryl have done so much to get neurologists to this location, to get them diagnosing people with Parkinson's, because there's so few throughout the country. And, creating these, what they call them, like medical camps where people can go to for the day, and they're bringing in a neurologist. And it's absolutely beyond belief. It's just mind-blowing what he's created there, what Cheryl has created. Taking shit that's happened to him and his family and in life, and grown these incredible flowers. And don't get me wrong, it's still very, very hard, but like, he's changed lives, he's saved lives, he's creating these programs that, like, man, with the things we take for, it's cliche, I guess, the things we take for granted, things I take for granted to treat my Parkinson's, like, they're having a hard time staying alive from day to day, especially going through COVID times. It's just, and here Kabuko Hannington is still working a full-time job. Now, finally, I think that's finally changed. He can dedicate his life to people with Parkinson's like he's born to do. And this guy is so smart. Like, I tell him when I went to go visit him, I was like, if you lived in the U.S., you'd be rich. And he's like, he would just laugh. He'd say, I know. But it's true. We'd all be working for him. And here he is in Uganda, being the country that Uganda is, people see it as, it's known for scams. And so he's trying to help people there. And he runs into so many dead ends and roadblocks and obstacles, and he goes on and on and on and on. He's the most determined, resilient, hardworking, loving, just caring person I've ever met. I mean, close to it. So that to me was it's such a big part of my life, to spend that week in Uganda and see him and those people and the program they were creating. It was so inspiring. And so I came home, and I tried to do my best to create interest and tell those stories, and just to help people understand how easily, not easy, but how much we have here. And not only that, but like compared to 20 years ago or 40 or 50 years ago here, or in our own country, the people that we deal with have access to the best resources, like myself. And I'm white, I'm male, and middle class, and so everything's kind of designed for me. And but I'm a fraction of the population that have ever come along, much right now, but that have ever come along. And there's so much I can do to help things for people who otherwise have no chance. Because Parkinson's without these things is miserable, is as miserable as anything. And to see it firsthand, you never forget that. And never forget these people. They just loved having me there. They're so good to me. And there was no bitterness, no resentment. To this day, Hannington's, there's no bitterness or resentment in him. There's more in me. Like, I'm bitter and resentful that we can't do more to help them, but not Hannington. Like, he's just grateful for everything
Yeah.
he gives.
Well,
And
it sounds pretty
people,
amazing.
it's, I could, and you'd have to just stop me because
Yeah, I will. I'll share the info about him and what the work that they're doing. And I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, I'm sure sitting here for an hour you're dying. Like, you got to go exercise right now.
well, there's the other piece of that. Yeah, there's the other piece of that too. Is like whatever you escape in with Parkinson's or life, especially with Parkinson's, you escape in that. You find that, you get in that zone, and you want to stay there. That's your peace, and like you get excited about things, and like because it's not Parkinson's. Anything that's not Parkinson's, I'm excited about because I'm not feeling it. Like there's a lot of times I'm slow to take my medication or behind on medication because you just forget. Like, you're so involved in whatever it is you're doing that Parkinson's, it's about taking the back seat. And then you realize that you quit thinking about that or doing that thing, and like, whoa, what? I'm not good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
And
I mean, I hope you have more days and times like that. At the same time, I hope they happen after you take your meds.
yeah, and what Heather Kennedy's going through right now, and some degree what I'm going through, just aside from Parkinson stuff, is it's really hard. But you see in Heather, and she and I talk about this sometimes. It's, in a way, I hate to say this, but it's true. It's valuable. It's valuable to us to understand suffering, and you can't have. It's really hard to have peace and fulfillment and contentment, and a mission and purpose without having some form of suffering on one side. And some people, like I think I've become, have really pushed that and gone far with it and realized, like, hey, it's not just Parkinson's is not just something that you can deal with or cope with or get past or live with. I mean, living with Parkinson's is great, great message. Davis Finney does wonderful things, but I'm to the point now. Like, I see it's more than living well with Parkinson's. It's it's a life uh, that's given me back. It's given me more than it's taken from me. As much as it's taken, there's a bigger thing here with what it's taught me, and I'm so fortunate to be able to have that view. I understand I'm a minority of people, but to whatever degree I can get people feeling that way, closer to that. And because people have shown me these things, like I've had access to two unbelievable people that's what they specialize in, not with Parkinson's, but in other aspects of life, like taking whatever looks like is shit and putting it into use. And like now I love that as much as anything. It's like, what are the bad things that are happening to me that I could use for me? And just it's a whole different mindset, a whole different way of looking at things. And I know it's not for everyone, but especially younger people, like this, if you don't have something, a mission, a purpose, something that helps, some sort of escape that takes you out of your Parkinson's at times, it's going to be really hard. And I just know if I'd have had something like this early on, if I'd adopted this sort of philosophy early on, it would have been much easier for me. But as hard as it is, and even when I'm crawling on my knees, I try to find value in that. Even when it's hard, I'm in pain, I'm stuck, I'm dystonia. Things are getting harder for me, despite all the exercise. You can't control everything. That I don't have to look at it as like things are going downhill. I still see things better. Physically, they're getting harder. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, they don't have to. So again, you have to stop me on this too, but like, I see what Heather's doing, and I get it. Like, life is so hard for her. I really feel for her, and not just her, but millions of people around the world like her with Parkinson's or whatever condition they have. But there's something, there's something there. Like, as long as my kids are out of pain and stuff, well, I do whatever I can do to keep my kids out of suffering and pain, and this to some degree helps them. And I'm doing things for them to help them, and I think they're starting to get it. And like, there's something bigger here, and if you can find that bigger thing, I think you're really lucky. And I see people like Heather able to do that, and really appreciate that, because she wants to give back, and so do I. And
yeah,
we
absolutely.
need that. She and I and other people like that. We crave it. Like, that's our drug, and so.
Yeah. Well, that's part of what I'm hoping with this, this series. She's coming back tomorrow. She's got a big appointment today. She's going to report on what happens today, and she has so much to share. So do you. So do so many people. And yeah, Parkinson's is hard, right? But you're doing things to help other people that are living with it. And if everybody with Parkinson's is, Nenad Bach, he's on here. He's helping other people. Yeah. Everybody on here is helping other people, whether they have Parkinson's or they're a care partner, and they're helping others, and it makes a difference. It makes a big difference.
Well, that's how I'm helping myself, right? I'm not here to say I'm being completely unselfish. It's selfish, because that's what makes me feel good. That's how I go on.
Yeah.
And so that's what I get out of it.
That's okay, because you could. If it means being selfish, then be selfish, because the alternative is doing nothing for yourself and others. So I'm okay with that.
Thanks.
So thank you so much, Gavin. I hope you'll come back someday and keep us posted on the work you're doing and all the great insights you have. And really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll keep going. And next time I'll talk about a lot of the shitty things I go through, or not just me, but that I see that we can try to change. And life is difficult life right now. But you take it day by day. Like the conversation you and I had, that's all we have is right now. It was great. So I never could have had something like this in my prior life. I would have. It's all new to me. If someone told me this is what I'd be talking about in 15 years, I will take it, because it's insight that gets me closer to like a level, let's say heaven or whatever. But it's like stuff that it's really, really fascinating. And next time maybe we'll talk about like what I found is what I can do with Parkinson's, and what I can't. But some of the things that like paradoxical kinesia and all those other things.
Yeah.
But thanks for having this, Mel. I think this is a great series.
Great.
Being last thing I'll say is like being real, shaking off all the whatever facades we have. Like it's extracted out of me. I didn't want it. I held on to those things, images and what people thought of me, and money. And now that that's pretty much gone, I have no choice but like, this is me. And
it's kind of easier though, right?
It's easy. It's work. I'm free. I'm free. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. So you can say whatever you want to some degree, and do whatever you want to some degree. And like, now I'm out of I had the key to the prison door. It was in my pocket all along. I just didn't know. I didn't know now. So this stuff we're talking about is for Parkinson's. Yeah, but it's for everyone. It's like the part of the problems we have are everyone's. It's just kind of magnified with us. And there's so much more meaningful, like how we feel and how we live our life. But our problems are cancer. It's very similar. So, and anything you can do, like, to kind of get your head out of Parkinson's, get into something, help other health matter for people, and I think that makes you feel better about yourself too, to realize, man, there's a lot more people going through struggles in all different kind of ways, and stepping across and helping each other out. Like, you learn so much. It's a whole new world for me to get into the cancer world. and understand that. But like, there's so many similarities, so many of the same problems and things that are done well. But maybe I bring something to cancer, and cancer people go into Parkinson's and bring something from their experience. And like, I don't know. I like to think we're learning something, and I like to think it's all good for somebody that comes along after us. And that's all I got. I'm gonna go play.
Great, excellent. Go play. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll be back soon. Thanks all.
Thank you, Mel.